Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure again to see some composers. Another place. I was in St. Petersburg 2 weeks ago. It was very different. It was a small festival, but very intense to meet the composers and to exchange with them. But it's always not problematic, but I ask me always the same question when I see young composers. I remember when I was younger, and as you know, we live in a very strange world. The capitalism is everywhere. They prefer the object to the idea, and we are a little bit alone in this global world. When I was in St. Petersburg, some composers told me, Raphaël, what is our place on this world? Who listen our music? Who expect something from we in this capitalism world? I feel that nobody wants to hear us. And finally, the question, and the only one question, is how to continue to compose. How to continue to compose. Because we are nothing compared to the big music that we can hear all around the world. The pop music, the mainstream music. And often ask me the question why I compose and why I want to continue to compose. Sometimes I don't want to continue to compose. It's so difficult, it's so hard. And when I was in Darmstadt last summer, it was like in St. Petersburg. Composers are here, alive. We are a secret movement all around the world. We can go in New York City, in Colombia, or in the concert, or in Buffalo, or in Europe, in Berlin. And in each city, there are some composers. Few, but there are some composers. We are really a secret band, a secret movement, and we are not alone. And finally, perhaps I'm wrong, but I feel that's what we do, and even if we don't feel it's often, but we fight against the capitalism. And when I talk about the capitalism, is this idea that some people, governments, want to reduce the human being. And us, we fight to be again and again and stay human being. I know that it's hard when we are alone at home, composing, and say, but who I am? Where is my personality in music? Why I do that? Perhaps I will not, the piece will not play. I'm completely alone, but not. Because we are a very strong secret organization. And this is important to say because perhaps I speak for me, but the solitude that we have and what we feel sometimes, could be terrible. And the question is how to continue to compose. When I was younger, when I began to make the music I make now, I felt that the music for the music was not enough. Demonstrate our competencies, show our competencies, it doesn't mean nothing. Make the music for the music, show to the people or to the audience, look, I'm strong, my orchestration is so beautiful, my counterpoint is amazing, the new timbre I catch, it's mine, and I'm very strong. But for what? For what? To play again the game of the capitalism. The capitalism is this, is to be stronger and stronger and stronger. Like coal that you push some extra things, poison, to be stronger and to be eaten by millions and millions of people. Me, I don't want to be this kind of coal. I want to be the coal that is alone on the forest or I don't know, you know. So when I began the music and began to be a composer, I felt that I told me all the time, Raphaël, be careful, don't go in this way. For sure, when we are students, it depends on the level of student. We must to organize, work, build the form, build a material, just to be focused on the material and focus on the music itself. Sure. But I'm always surprised when I heard pieces that it's incredible pieces, well done, beautiful orchestration, everything. But after that, I told me, but for what? For what spend all these hours and finally you go out of the concert, you walk on the streets and you say, oh, yes, I remember about this, oh, it was great, but for what? I think make music only to demonstrate our competencies is not enough. For sure, and I repeat myself again, we must to manage the form and manage the music and the relation between the material. But I was always touched by the piece of art who use some form of radicality. And in fact, I don't know some piece of art without radicality. I mean, all the old piece of art we know, they exist because one day the artist said, okay, I have this idea to make some black painting, Caravaggio, we use a lot of shadow, and it say, okay, I push myself in this sense. And it was terrible for him. It was rejected at the beginning. And the example, there are millions of examples of that. It's the same in France, for example, with Marcel Proust, who wrote La Recherche du Temps Perdu. You know, it's a huge story. I don't remember how many books it is. And the sentences are very long, very strong, and sometimes you are completely lost. And we don't know where it's going. And finally, when you finish the book, you say, wow, okay, it speaks about his relationship with Albertine, his homosexuality, many things. But finally, there's something up, a sort of transcendence. When I speak about transcendence, it's not only to touch God or whatever. Transcendence can arrive also with a force, energy. This is why I think that one by one we have inside us is our history, something that pushes us to make the music for something else. But at the beginning of my research with the saturation music, I wasn't sure of that. And suddenly I remember my history. I remember my history and the history of my family. It's important sometimes when we're looking for something in our hearts to take a look back. And I remember that my grandparents was born in Serbia. With this family, they go in Egypt. My grandfather was born in Egypt, and he arrived in France. And the Second World was there. So he was communist resistant. And he stopped here. He cut my name because my real name is Cendo. He cut to make Italian and to be sure to have no problem in this period. And suddenly I understand many, many things. I don't know if you know Balkan music, but it's very strong with horn and brass, very, very intense. So I say, okay. And my music used that before with, for example, a bow of oboe reed, and you know this technique, yeah, for sure, on the embouchure and all the craziness. And say, okay, perhaps there a connection with my personal history and this violence in my music. I'm a gentleman, for sure. Don't listen to my music and don't say, okay, this guy is like that. I'm not like that. But this violence, remember also a very important part of my life when I was 4 or 5 years with a community, anarchist community. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about politics. I learned a lot about fight. I learned a lot about the relationship with the others, how to respect. And even if I can say that my music is politic in the sense that I don't make music to say I'm against this, I'm for that, and but this violence of the body and the gesture is so important for me. And in fact, one again, I don't know a piece of art without a politic sensibility. Even if, for example, Caravaggio, we can say that is politic, but how is used the shadow? He wanted to say something to his audience. He said, okay, look what's happened, the politics, the church. So with my friend Franck Bedrosian, we begin to make this idea of saturation music. And we were very happy to write a piece, go to the concerts, show our pieces, but it was a disaster. It was a disaster. First, the musicians. Now you don't know this problem because they grow up a lot. But 20 years ago almost, it wasn't like that, like what you know now with the musicians. And it was a mess. It was terrible. First with the musicians, second with the audience, and third, and the most important, with critics and with academy, and because us at the beginning we didn't want to have a name of the music we made. We were happy to looking for sound and to create material with complex sound. We didn't want to say, okay, saturation, etc., etc. But because the critics was so strong, we said, okay, we will make some lecture, presentation, conferences about our music. But first, we must to define what we want to show and what our music speak about. So we spoke a lot. We spent a lot of time, days and nights. And I remember one night, I think it was in Frank Flat in Paris, when he lived in Paris. He said, okay, distortion, it's good name. But I said, okay, but already the spectral music use this name, the distortion, the spectrum distortion. So it's, and we said, okay, saturation. Okay, let's go. But it was like we was like a child. It was okay, let's go, yeah. And we didn't think about what it's mean really. And okay, parenthesis. Finally, we explained a lot, and the things didn't change. It was still all people was again, not all, but a lot of people was against us. But we open our mind and we push to realize what we do. And finally, saturation come from Greek name. They call that ars satura. And at this moment, ars satura means to make a mix with text for the theater. You know, the actor arrived and made some improvisation with a lot of text they'll know by heart and improvise with that. So ars satura, it's first a mix of text. And this is very important for the rest of my presentation. Yes, a mix. And finally, saturation music is a mix of a lot of things. For sure, the complex sound is the base of the saturation music. A scratch sound and the multiphonic. It was the beginning of this. But very quickly I use, for example, for the multiphonic, the voice of the musician to destroy more and more the tube and to have more different frequencies. And with the scratch sound, very quickly, the question was how to develop with very simple material. Because, as you know, I don't know you, all of you, but some of you, if you use some complex sound or only timbre, the problem is how to develop and how to variate the sound with finally nothing. I mean, it's nothing. So yes, let's try to do something. Imagine a piece for violin. You begin, and you want to use just a small material, just only. The question is how to develop it. And this is finally the story of my first string quartet, but okay. Okay. We can make movement. And it's funny what's happened, it's like a filter. When you change, and you can change also the position of the bow, but what you heard, it's a sort of filter, because the fundamental stays the same. Okay, so we have that. Finally, if we analyze what's happened with this movement, okay, let's try to make this movement here also. Okay, and here we are very close to the problematic of the gesture. Okay, so I can mute the pitch, mute it, and Colegno battuto, or Colegno with hair first. Okay, how to make an imitation of that with another timbre? Because it's also when we work on the timbre or the complex sound, the problem is also how to make some imitation of things. I saw a score yesterday from you, and you work a lot on this. Begin with one sound, and how to make some imitation of timbre to create a continuity. So okay, Colegno with air. And say, okay, so let's go to Colegno battuto. Very quick. It's come from this, in fact. Huh? Okay, how to make an imitation of that with just one instrument? What? It could be very close. Oh, I get it. Comment je peux écrire? Yeah, we are still mute. In fact, yes. Why mute? Okay, because as you know, when we use scratch sound, the sound is less strong than the normal sound. We lost a lot of power of the sound. This is why I'm stay mute. Okay. So pids. We are still on the same idea. And only with that we can have 1 minute of a piece, only with one ID. Oh yes. Okay. Colegno battuto, mute, but finally we want to have some pitch. I mean, so, sorry, it's no mute, and suddenly the pitch arrive. And if you have in mind the sound what products Colegno battuto without mute things, you have a lot of, and especially when you move between some ponticello and the ordinario, you have a sort of harmonic arrive. So, okay. Let's take it. Oh. Yeah, but we are still on this movement. Okay. Okay, but we are still there, so let's go to move. Oh yes, but we are very far from that. We lost suddenly this movement was very important for us, for me, in fact. Okay. Okay, this idea is very interesting. Let's go back here. Sorry, to be. Oh, this idea is wonderful. Okay. And now the filter we had before begin to be very large. And so on and so on, and we can continue all together to have some idea during all the day with that. Oh, no, it's pretentious. 20 minutes more, it's enough. And now we arrive in this question of the form and how to organize the element. Because with that, okay, it will be stupid if we play the it will be completely, what is the relation of now we arrive in a perhaps the strange part of my music. Not a strange, but I'm very close to this. Is the body theater. I forget to say that at the beginning, when I was a student in the Paris Conservatory, it was the mood of the quiet music, a lot of Sciarrino music, beautiful, incredible composer. But everybody made this music at this time. And I was surprised to see the musician. The gesture was, very slow, very calm, and it's missing for me to see that Antonin Artaud, I don't know if you know him, is a very important writer, painter, and theater man in France, Antonin Artaud. And he said that in one book, he's looking for his theater, the théâtre de la cruauté. how we say cruauté? Cruauté. Theater cruauty. And it was exactly that, to have the body here and not very far away. And parenthesis, it's very interesting to see how the musician played, for example, Webern and Lachenmann. The body is not the same. In Webern, the piece for piano and cello, the small one, and for Lachenmann, the body moves completely different. And as a composer, don't forget that. It's very important for your music to think about the body of the musician and not only the sound. Because if you arrive to catch the movement of your music, you will arrive to write better and better your music. Sorry. So for my first string quartets, the question was, with all the example I show you, how to connect all the things. And the body was the key, one of the key. So I bought a violin. I'm sure that a lot of composers here, you have some instrument that you cannot play very well, but you taste something. If is not, please buy some cheap instrument and play with it or without. We can imagine the instrument and play. It's help a lot. So I bought my Chinese cheap violin. It was amazing, 20 euros. It just arrived. There everything, the case, the bow, the thing for the bow, the violin, the strings, amazing. And I began to play like that. It was horrible for sure. I'm not a violinist. But I say, okay, but. And suddenly, as a miraculous things, everything was called on it. Everything. Because the body. When you compose also for a sort of theater. And as a manager stage, metteur en scène, how we say metteur en scène? The director, yes, thanks. The director, we must to feel this, to feel the body of the musician. So after it was very simple. Or perhaps we can listen an extract. Oh, I don't know if I had it. Oh, I don't have it. A new laptop. Okay, by the way, it's not a problem because I will speak about... Let's stay on this story of the body. After the string quartet, I made other things, always in this idea of total saturé, like exists total chromatic. And I made a piece for double bass flute, bass flute, double bass flute, trumpet, and acoustic guitar and ensemble. And I wanted really to be close to the body of the musician, and to buy a double bass flute, it was too expensive. So I work with this amazing guy. We work with Ectus Ensemble. And I say, okay, let's go Mike Schmidt. Let's go to improvise and give me some materials. And okay, what do you want? Okay, movement, voice, and craziness. And believe me, he's crazy, really. Ah, j'ai pas de son. Tu vois, je peux pas accéder au... Ah, c'est bon. Super. Yeah, is. So the question is the same: how to, because when you make some improvisation with a musician, they are always amazing and they give us amazing idea, you know. But it's not a composition. We stole a little bit some idea from them, and after we dedicate the piece for them. But for sure, we are a little bit. We stole some things, but it's not the piece at the end. And the question is, for instance, here, how to make the connection with the score. For this, it's very simple. You use the voice. So I just put register key because it's impossible to. No, it's not impossible, but it's difficult to be very precise for the pitch of the voice. So I prefer to use only the register key, so low and high and middle. And double bass flute. Okay, what's happened? He move its finger on the key, but it's not only key click, because sometimes it's play on, but it's always moving the fingers. So okay. And very fast. Okay. And after he does something with the voice very strange between fry and normal sound. So let's put all the things that he used with the mouth on this register. So and breath. And we are close to what to do. It's not the same, but we are close. Oh yes. And here, he used a little bit throat. inside here. And I continue to use. Finally, it's not so difficult to make a translation between this and this. Let your imagination do whatever you want, and feel free. And sometimes respect, not for the respect, but respect what we know before in the history of the music, because there are some very strong characteristics. Don't try to invent a new symbol if this symbol exists already and is perfect. Yeah, because sometimes it's, you know, I will make my own symbols. No, please. It's a disaster for the musicians. But for sure, if you add a new idea of a timbre, because it's arrive often, I'm sure that there are a lot of new things to discover. For sure, you must to invent new things. And this is problematic also because, and exciting. How to be clear and describe all what's happened in one thing. It's very difficult, but very exciting things. Okay, I speak too much. Let's go to listen to the beginning of the piece. I'm sorry I don't have the score. Okay. Just an example because I want to speak a lot today. So I made a piece really in this mood. I try sometimes to don't repeat too much myself. It's also a problem as a composer. This is why I begin and I said I have to continue to compose also for that. Sometime, I don't know if you have this, no, you are too young, but sometimes I have the feeling that it could be better that to die very young, and just to have not to have this problem to try to reinvent always your mind is always a challenge, a huge challenge. Sorry for this depressed moment. Yeah, so as I said, I am really focused on this concept of saturation. It means a lot for me, and I told you before, I come from a lot of things, political, families, my own history. So I wanted to explore the maximum of this concept, the phenomenon of the saturation. So first, total saturé. It was the first idea concept with this kind of music. Overdrive, overflow. This is very important to try to go very far away from the border of the possibility of the musicians physically, and also with the score. The score are very complicated sometimes. But at the end I say, okay, I make all the possibilities for my music of this idea of total saturé. And as I said, I like also quiet music. I'm very admirative of quiet music, believe me. And I wanted to explore with this idea of saturation, the pianissimo or piano sound. So again, I analyze the phenomenon. When we use some complex sound, in fact, we work with granulation. With the string, we heard completely, this is granular sound. With the multiphonic, with all the beats between, there are this idea of granulation sound. But it's very quick. Sorry for my multiphonic sound, but something like that. And okay, so finally it's just granulation. Don't be afraid, Raphaël, about complex sound. It's just granulation. So I try to put this idea to keep the saturation way, and I say, okay, perhaps I must to stretch this granulation to have more and more the perception of the granulation itself. So I say, okay, let's go to make some infra saturation, like infra bass. So just go, and let's go to try. Between the concept and the result, there are always a large bridge. But let's try to stretch the granulation. Or perhaps I have the score. And with this idea, I made my second movement of my first string quartet with finally the same always the same material. I will take a look. I hope I have. vivo. What's it? Oh, but I think it's, yeah, it's okay. It's not too bad. Yeah, you can see. It's only 2 pages. The second movement. We are very, very slow, and I'm sorry to say that, and to mention that, because for me it was a premiere to calm down, take a rest, and so the movements are very, very slow. You see, this is scratch. Oh yes, I made that before. I'm sure you know this symbol. It's come from the 70s. Grisey used a lot. Xenakis also perhaps in his wonderful piece called Tracé, a piece for orchestra, only 4 minutes, I think. An explosion of amazing sound. If you don't know this piece from Xenakis, Tracé is incredible. Yeah, so at this moment I use this symbol. And finally, we are always in this idea of the scratch sound, and it's only few movements. It's like a black and white photography from the first movement, or the first movement is very, very active. Okay, let's go listen a little bit until here. Oh, I hope I have. Oh yes, sorry. Sorry, this is my first. Okay, I got it. Just let's go to listen a little bit the first movement of this string. Okay, so this first movement is really based on a lot of movement and okay, let's go to listen to the second. I have it. Yeah. Oh. Ok. Oui. Okay, so I explore a lot this idea of infra-situation. And I also make a piece, we don't have time to listen it, but called Rock. We use another type of infra-situation. It's a combination between this and this. It's a lot of movement, a lot of events, but pianissimo. No pressure, nothing, just movement like that. And again, after that, when I make all the exploration of total saturé and infra-saturation, again the crisis. I don't know if you know this feeling, but when you feel that you already made a piece like that and you repeat yourself, it's a little bit pathetic, in fact, to be a caricature of yourself, and in my case, in myself. Now, it's really a question. I know you are young, so perhaps you don't know this feeling yet. But when we believe that, okay, we are something close to what we are, and yes, done. No. Sorry, guys, to be like that, but it's not true. It's never stop research. Okay, so ask me the question with the form. Even if my personal history is complex, Serbia, Egypt, France, I was born in France, and I received the education of France, and especially with the music. And perhaps you know, I'm sure you know that it's, except, I'm sorry if some other people will listen me and other French composer, but except Debussy, the French form is very clear. I mean, and we learn the form at school like that, in fact, and analyze also like that. Part A, B, A prime, C, D, and blah blah. And for sure, if you listen pieces from Olivier Messiaen, the structure is very clear. Boom, boom, boom. Griset also, with the process. It is not a problem, but this is the reason of the process. Okay, one again. Okay, and tak, okay, and boom. Sorry, I love all these composers, and I don't want to make a joke. Sorry. But my music was also like that. I mean, at the beginning. I didn't ask me too much the question of the form. Oh, I forget something very important in the French institution of music. The climax. I would like to have the guy in front of me who invent this idea of climax just before the end of the piece, or at the end of the piece, just to tell him what is fucking idea it is. The climax. I don't know how you learn music, but for us, you know, with a teacher like that, and the professor says, where are you climax? Climax. Stupid idea. Okay, but this is why I told to me at the beginning, I put the climax at the beginning. And after, we will see what's happened. But sure, it's climax. Okay. So I said, okay, A, B, the question is, it is possible to make a piece without parts? Oh yes, you can make a big A. There are some pieces from wonderful, and I love him a lot, pieces from Brian Ferneo. Well, it's so complex that you are in just one thing, and that's good. And there are still pieces like that, just one material and just big A. So the question is, can we make a piece without parts? It's really problematic. I think not, because except if you are in the concept music, that's also very interesting. Okay, parenthesis. I don't know if you are some German composer here, or if you came already in Germany or Darmstadt, but it's also exciting to have some pieces, concept pieces. It's amazing that it exists. I mean, but I'm very far away from this conception, even if I respect it. Ok, so partons du principe, comme on dit. Let's start and let's say, okay, and after we can discuss. I will let some time to have some question, but let's say, okay, it's difficult to make pieces without parts. Let's say that. And in my case, I was with Titik, large, big part one, tag, part two, and you listen on the first movement, and after we have this second part. Very clearly. Okay, but I am in the saturation way and research. So I ask me the question, what it will be a saturation form? A lot of parts. A lot of parts. I mean, a lot. And my piano concerto, we will listen a little bit again, it's based on this. It was the first time I made a piece with a lot of parts. It's like a lot of windows and no development. It's just idea, no development. Also this idea of development, I want also to see the man or the woman who invent this development. But it's another things. So okay, I wanted to make a lot of parts, and I'm sure that more than 20, comment on dit 2000 parts in this. For me, perhaps it's. But the problem when you compose like that, and for me it was really a problem, because I'm very close to the idea of to have just one material, very close. Now I think it's stupid, but because I change again. But in this moment it was very important for me. So, and also for the second time I use the silence a lot as the connection of all the parts. And I think they have a video. Sorry, I typed my name. Sorry, guys. It's a little bit pretentious, but yes. So it is a piece for an amazing pianist called Willem Lachumia. Perhaps you don't know him very well, but the end is like that, and he can play everything, really everything, and he plays classical music, incredible. It's conducted by Jean-Philippe Wurtz, who is the director of Ensemble Linéaire. And in the same idea for this formal saturation, after that I made a piece, an orchestral piece, play here in Radio France with Radio France Orchestra. We have no time to listen it, but I wanted to briefly speak about my third string quartet. So if you have the website to my publisher, and if you are here, it's just oh no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not here. Yes. Ah shit. Ah shit. Sorry. No, because it's a problem of rights. I will explain you. It's for quatuor string quartet and 4 voices, and I use some text, and it's a problem of rights. This is why we don't have it on the website. Yes. After this saturation formal things, I wanted to create, to put off the skin of my music and try to go directly on the bow. Bow? Bone. Bone. The bow is. And when I began this music, I was, and really believe me, it's true. I'm hanté by destruction. I see some image of destruction all the time, and when you dream but you are awake, and I have, and since when I was child, it's like strange image arrive, and But it's not so horrible. I just see some destroy building, and it's not about body, and it's. And I was always inspired about the destruction. When I was young, I was 11. The Chernobyl nuclear explosion arrived. I'm sure some of you know that. It was in Russia, Ukraine. It was incredible. And this summer it was very strange because it was very hot. And the French authorities, François Mitterrand, president, say, no, don't be afraid. The clouds, nuclear cloud, it's just stop at the border of Italy. But in fact, all my region was infected on the top. I'm not so. Don't be afraid. I'm not. You can check my hand, and you will not have a problem. But I was very. It's not fascinating. It's not a story of fascinating, but I feel that on my body since a long time, and it still arrive. So when some people say, "Yeah, but why you speak always about destruction?" I say, I cannot do without that. It's here. So I make a piece, my third string quartet, called Dell'Occasione. It's based on several texts, but the principal text is Georges Didier Huberman. He's the French historic, philosophic, sociologic artist. He's really amazing. And about some extract of Claudio Parmigiani. I don't know if you know this artist. He speaks to me a lot, as you can see. And this is au Collège des Bernardins. He put some glass, and it destroyed this labyrinth like that, just. And I was very impressed by the way 2 hours to speak in English, and the bug arrived. By the similitude between what I feel and what he do. So I make this piece. I take some extract of interview of him. Unfortunately, it's 1 hour and 10 minutes, so we don't have time, but it's on YouTube. You can, if you're interested by, take a look. Let's go to listen just because, yes, I want to speak a little bit. If you have some question, you will have some question after, or just so I can speak until the end. Okay, if you want, just, I'm sorry, I just have one score. Perhaps. And the player has Tana Quartet and the Neu Vocal Solisten. One hour and 2 minutes, sorry. Là-dessus, on peut avoir un peu plus de son, parce que c'est... So this is the end of the first movement. Now the second. Sorry, just one thing. I forgot to mention one thing. For my second string quartet, I made with the musician a special bow, what I call guero bow. It's just, you know, on the wood, you make by yourself a guero to have this special sound. This is why you heard strange things. But for this piece, for my third one, we asked to a professional to make a new bow, so there are different possibility. You know the filetage, what is it? When you have the bow and you have the metallics things just here. I extended a lot to have the sound, metallic sound. I want the granulation, to have the granulation, but in a metallic sense. So this is why sometimes there are some strange things. And the singer have a metallics, guero, something like that.
contre. Du kan alles dafür danken.
Okay, let's go to listen a little bit the third movement. Okay. Escape. And just to finish, and I say to my girlfriend that it will be my last time with the saturation, and after I will quit and go in Toscan and live with dogs and cats. But No, really, I want to stop. And the last things that I will explore, we heard a little bit here already, is historic saturation. I don't made the piece yet, but it will be for sure for a new piece for in September in Musica, and a piece for Ensemble Intercontemporain, a singer and 25 musicians for ManiFeste next year. And you remember I spoke about ars satura, to mix text. It's really the idea. I want to compose with melody. Yeah, I want to play with harmony. I want to play with Baroque instruments. So I will try to put all the music inside the music. I want to write melody. I never, no, it's more than 25 years ago I wrote melody for, I want to try and take some period of the historic music, I mean all. Also the first human being, even if we don't have recording or scores, but we can imagine, what's happened. And try to put on the same things, so to make a mix of text, in fact. Not with citation, no, with really write as, but destroy a little bit the things. Okay, guys, dear composers, if you have some question. Yes.
So I was wondering, my question is specifically about the string quartet with the vocalists. I was wondering how much the process of decision-making for you changes when you work with the text versus you work with the musical material, like as itself. And if there's any, are there situations where you think that the text is taking you to another direction, and then if you didn't have the text, the musical material dictated something else?
If you ask a question, I'm sure you are already right for voice, or you will.
I have, and I like doing it, and most of the times I think about it.
It's very difficult. No, it's very difficult. First is how to say the text. And these pieces are not a lot of singing things. But now I will make more, For me, the text helped me a lot, in fact. And I'm sure it's for a lot of composers. First, it calmed down the energy of the, no, really. And specifically, this kind of text, it's in French, so sorry if you don't understand. And the recording is not best of me either. Sometimes I miss it. But it gave me some idea for the articulation of the things. And I remember this piece, I take 1 year and month to write it. I was always with the text, and on the train, on the plane, and listen and re-listen, and sometimes it's arrived very quickly how to manage it. For example, for this, what we heard, for me it was clear. And sometimes I need to push myself to be clearest. And but it was your question, how to manage the text with the, yeah.
Yes.
And I'm very sorry. Now really, I will tell you the truth. I don't remember. And
it's okay.
No, because there are one reason very important, and I forget to speak about that, but when I'm composed, I made some idea, but in a book, but very fast, just idea. But when I'm arrived on the table, I don't know what I will do, during the days. And sometime I continue, and the day after, the day before go to bed, okay, tomorrow I will continue with this, and sleep, and no, and go, and I call that direct action. Direct writing. It's come from direct action. It's an anarchist word to make that you do what you want, what yourself, and every day is like that. And I love this idea of direct writing. This is why I don't remember. No, really. But for sure, I remember that I was with the text all the time with me. It was not a very cool period for me. A lot of changing on my life, and I was focused on, but finally, it was more the destruction was more strong than the text, in fact.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question about in this music is very subtle and very active. How do you communicate with your performers when they are not quite familiar with this kind of music, and especially in this ensemble, and how they can be told or communicate that they have to listen to which part? Yeah, that's my question.
Well, now, when what I said, it's a lot of ensemble play, Klangforum, Ensemble contemporain. Now they're very familiar with this kind of music. But for sure, at the beginning, the only possibility is to show them. And I remember for the first rehearsals with my orchestra piece. You know, when you arrive in front of an orchestra, and especially when you have this kind of thing, and you know that they're more classical, and so you arrive, and 2 minutes after, first violin, all the group, well, yeah, we say, it's impossible, and I can understand. I'm not say that to be against them. I understand. Sometimes I'm sorry. I'm sorry to ask a lot of things. And so you come, say, the first violin may have, you take the instrument and you show with everybody. And for sure, everybody calm down very quickly. If they feel that what you write is not only a concept of the music, but if you show them that you are familiar and you can show, everybody calm down, really, and try to make the best. It's a pity, because I remember when I was in Conservatory of Paris, I asked my teachers how to manage rehearsals. It's really difficult. So you just need to feel the relationship with the musician, and if you feel some tension, some problem, sometimes you must go and explain and stay calm. One of the key of the rehearsals. And when you see that it's too much, and you come on, we must to have this feeling. We are artists and we feel a lot of things. So for the rehearsals, it's the same. Just yeah. Well, we can discuss after, or if you have some question during the week, I'm here. So thank you, guys. Thank you.